So in this video, we'll take a look at the legal case framework, including out-of-the-box configuration and features that can be enabled iteratively in line with any adoption process or roadmap. The framework is driven by a persona engine, which delivers contextualized views in the context of work role within an organization or external, so things like solicitor views, partner views, client-specific views, and we'll take a look at those in turn. So what we're looking at currently is what we call a workbench. When you first hit the case management solution, you hit your user workbench. This is an aggregated view of all of your work, and from here you can jump off into all of the key features, whether that's at case level, task level, and we provide a whole bunch of lenses to facilitate that. So if we take a closer look at a couple of them, this is a world view, an insights view. It gives me an indication of what my portfolio looks like, and I can use these analytics to jump off into any particular view. So if I'm homing in on a particular phase of a case and case type, I can do that from here. It also gives me an overview of things like all my upcoming key dates, so that's litigation dates, client SLAs, all that kind of thing. And also all of the in-app notifications, which you'll also see from the toolbar up here in Global Nav. And this is the system watching for things and projecting all these notifications off them. So things like reminders and alerts and notifications. What I can do in here is I can choose which events I want to subscribe to, but also how you want them to be delivered. So things like send me a weekly summary of all the client SLAs if I'm a partner, things like that. So that's the in-app notification system. Let's look at a couple of other key views in my workbench area. So in the team view area, this shows me an insight into all the workloads. And what I can do in here as well is use this to level out any work, so reallocate, redistribute. And I can give these cases back to the machines, or these tasks back to the machine to pick the most relevant person based on least busy, their risk profile, their score profile, all that kind of thing. Now let's take a closer look at a couple of other lenses. So my work list is my task list. And in addition to all the standard things that you get from a task list like filtering, we also provide a whole bunch of configurable bulk actions. So things like bulk reassign, bulk complete, bulk delegate, bulk give back to the machine to auto allocate based on my auto allocation rules. What you'll also notice is if I interact with a task on my task list, my time recording feature, which has been configured, automatically kicks off. So in here I can do things like automatically pull in a billing narrative and time codes, and you'll see from the top here it will automatically stop any active clocks that I've got. So if I pick up a telephone call or I want to jump into different actions, this is all right into my timesheet associated to each case. And I can push that through into a back-end billing system or generate invoices or bills from case. Let's take a couple of look at some other key views in here. So I can look at this across as an individual and also across as a team. You'll notice as well that there's a radar, and a radar is a contextual analytics element of each page. So you'll see that on lists and also in our case view when we take a closer look at a legal case. This again enables us to weave all these analytics into the system to enable me to make better decisions and get real-time analytics. Let's have a look at the calendar view. So in the calendar view, this is all of my key dates, so all of my legal key dates, things like court hearing dates, all of my client appointments, all of my client SLAs, all of that kind of thing. And you can have two-way sync between Outlook, and I can also see these in standard list views. And again, I can trigger one of these to have a look at it and carry it through its life cycle. A couple of other views to call out, things like approvals, so the specific task types to handle all of the approvals, whether that's a document related approval or some other task activity. And we can also associate the context of that approval, so if it's a document or a payment, you'll see that in here as well. One other view, and it's to all the what we call throw and catch activities that we manage inside of our cases. So things like I'm requesting this report or I'm requesting this information. We generate special activity types called document expectations, and the system will watch and wait for these things to come back. And when a user drags a document into their case repository, or they scan it in, or that's emailed in, we can pick back up on that process, or we can do automatic chases around it. So these are just document expectations. In my folio view, I can see the case level view. So I can do things in here like bulk activities, but I can also filter on any key milestone that I'm looking at. And again, there's a case radar that'll tell me the distribution and my churn, so how many am I getting through, and I can use these to filter as well in there. If I single click on here, I get all of the case key facts, so all of its information, who's involved in it, so all of my case participants, and I can also see all of its key dates. I can also navigate directly through to a case portal. Just one other view in here before we take a closer look at a legal case itself. We started recording some time before. You can also see on here all of my time recording, and you can configure things like time targets. So if people have got time targets that they need to reach, we'll be constantly tracking against all of those targets across all of those case types and raising the appropriate alerts. So if we take a closer look at a legal case, let's jump into one of our legal cases that we've created. So we're looking at a personal injury case here, but the case framework ships with a portfolio of pre-configured types for all kinds of legal deals and disputes, such as real estate, injury, RTA, commercial, private client. And the first thing we see here is the landing page, which is made up of configurable widgets and within a portal definition. And there are over something like 350 curated widgets that you can choose from the case library. And they all do a particular activity. So what we've got here is, let's take a closer look. We've got a toolbar across the top. So this is all, again, enables me to surround the caseworker with all of the features to get their work done. So the first one is our precedent library, and we'll look at the document assembly feature that comes out of the box as well, because cases involve a lot of document correspondence and collaboration. All of our participants, so adding people in from our master list. Lots of financial features, so things like budgeting and estimates and fees, and all our reserving is in here. And if we take a quick look at some of this functionality, so what we can do in the estimate or the fee model is we can have fee templates that we inherit from an agreement or a client agreement. We can also do things like track against these fees, so we can see all of our budget breakdown. We can start doing things like escalation when we're starting to spend more money than we should, all of that kind of activity in the fee structure. As we jump down in here as well, you can see that we've got what we call schedules of loss. So this is where we can do all our estimations. So this in legal, these can be configured for all the case types. They're already pre-configured, but you can override them. So things like all of my pain, suffering and loss, my global damages. And again, we weave analytics into the app here to do things like how accurate I am against this case type, how accurate I am within the context of a client SLA, how accurate I am against my peer group. So all that information. So we underpin the expertise with some empirical evidence here as well. We've also got a whole negotiation feature. So this is receiving and making offers. And again, we weave analytics into that, where know your opponent information and strategies to enable you to deliver better outcomes around that negotiation cycle. And there's a litigation engine too. So we've got when a case litigates, so goes to court, we can configure, again, there's a whole bunch of out-of-the-box configuration for court types. All of the legal protocols are in here, but all of the case court timetables as well across different jurisdictions. So you can see in here all of my court timetable key dates, which I can then record and track. So we'll receive orders. The court will say, can we do these things on these times? And we'll come in here and record these. And we can get the system to kick off particular activities around that. And there's some legal protocols built into the case framework out of the box. Some other widgets that we help you inside of your legal case are things like incident management. So we've got a whole area where you can record the types of incidents, you can record information around the incident and do lots of profiling. There's the liability feature, which enables you to negotiate around fault and drive investigations. So again, you can configure which parties you're tracking against. So the claimant thinks this is their position, and our client thinks this is their position, and we're investigating in between. So this is a whole liability feature. The Case Explorer enables me to build networks of work. So whether that's parent-child relationships or things like a legal proceeding of a particular case, or I can come in here and link them up. And the system can do things like recommend cases that should be linked together based on matching profiles. So same supplier, same doctor, same circumstances, same profile, same metrics. And I can come and have a look at these, and I can just link those together in here. So I can start building up my own networks of linked cases. You'll see in here the financial summaries and everything else. So let's take a quick look at some of the risk profiling features that you get at the box with your legal case. This is built on top of a risk scorecard feature, so you can build risk metrics. So any metric, these can be linear scale, they can be binary in here. And then you can also have weighting around these and banding. And what this enables you to do is to profile or risk profile any particular case based on specific metrics. Again, for all our case types, we ship with out of the box risk scorecards, but you can configure your own. And at portfolio level, you can do things like look at the risk profiles across portfolio, across client, across work types. And you can automatically set these based on behavior. So things like this SLA has been missed, or we've got this information that's just come in, let's go and profile that. The other way we weave analytics into the app, which you've seen through the injury indicator, let me just show you that real quick. So I'll find you the participants. And what we're trying to do with this data-driven decision approach is, again, underpin the expertise with some empirical evidence. So when you start recording things like injuries, we can reach back into the solution to find out what the range bands should be recommended for this injury type, and also some narrative around the category of loss and the types and things like that. We can reach out into different APIs. So let's take a closer look at some of the document assembly engine. So lots of legal cases, lots of documents coming back and forth. So we've got a whole templating engine, which involves some Word plugins to generate the master templates. But let's go and quickly generate a new document. So this enables me to use any data that we capture as part of the case lifecycle and inject that into the document using tags. So what I'm doing here is just selecting the recipient of the document, and I'm going to generate it. And what will happen now is it'll take all of my case data, merge that into the document, put that into my document repository, whether that's O365 or iManage or a file system, and then it will present that up as part of the activity. So I can see this in a previewer. I can do things like tear this off, I can compare versions, I can annotate this, I can redact it. So you can see it's injecting all of my information in here. Let's take a closer look at a couple of other key features around documents, or working with documents. So one of the things we see is the ability to take a large document and split it down into relevant parts. So I might have a big document in here that I want to extract certain elements out of. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's go split. So I'm going to create a split of this document now. So let's call this first split evidence 1. I'm going to just store this in the root. So let's go and select the pages that I want. So I want page 1 and I want page 4. Let's close that. Let's create another split. I'll call that evidence 2. Save that in the root. And I'll come and grab a couple of other additional pages. Close that. And then let my system go and split them. Okay, so when they're split, you can see them now in my document repository. I've got my evidence 1, which contains my 2 pages, and my evidence 2. What I can also do when working with documents is I can create bundles. So these are things like disclosure packs to other parties, disclosure packs to court. So I can take all the artifacts that I'm generating, maybe through documents that I receive. So I can also drag and drop into my document repository in here. So I can pull in, just straight pull in here. But what I can also do is generate bundles from the artifacts that I've got based on some pre-configured templates. So what I've got here is I'm going to create a bundle, and I'm going to create a new disclosure bundle. And you can see here it's got sections, and each section again is driven by a template with its separators. It's going to create me a clickable index. And what I can do is I can just drag in the documents from my repository into the relevant sections. And when I'm ready, I can say generate, and that will generate me a single bundle with my artifacts, a single PDF document from my artifacts that I can then disclose to different parties. And we can use email templates in the same way as we can document templates, and integrate with Outlook via the sent folders item. One final key view to look at inside of a case is the chronology view. Now, the chronology view provides a chronological list of all the key events that have occurred inside of the case. It's a user-centric view, so I can see what's going on. What I can also do in here is filter, so I can look at things like interactions between parties, so show me everything between me and the claimant, for instance. I can also look at, get the whole preview, so I don't need to be in the document repository to preview any files in here. And all of the document features stand inside my chronology view, so I can compare things side by side and all of that rich functionality. I can zoom in on things like, what I'm interested in, so show me all of the key milestones that are changing on here, show me all of my estimation, show me all of my offer cycle, so I can really look at the key events that are happening and triggering each other in here. This is a nice user-centric view. Closer look at some of the other personas, and then we'll have a look at some of the data warehouse and reporting capabilities. So let's log in as Ben, and Ben's a client. So the persona engine is picking up a different persona for Ben and presenting his workbench in a different way. So you can see on here he's got his workbench, team views, team calendars, and all the activities that Ben has got as an external party. So things like service requests that he's watching or approvals that I might need to look at. You can also use this transaction breakdown to drill into particular cases on here to just zoom in and filter this list. I can see out of the team who is working on what. So if I just take a closer look at that, I can see across the team the distribution of files, where they're up to. I can raise service requests on here. I can see all of my key date calendars as well, so things that I'm tracking against SLAs. I can also look at reporting, and I can raise new instructions. So these are the folio of different types that you can take your new instructions via a portal rather than emails and letters shipping back and forth. What I can also do is run any report that has been assigned to this profile. So things like client insight reports to give an insight into the work that's being received. So things like work type, ROIs against tracking, what the status is. I can look at that across regions and so on and so forth. So let's finish off with a quick look at the reporting side. So the case management framework ships with its own data warehouse, and we've got a whole suite of reports that we ship with out of the box. Let's have a quick look at a couple of them and then finish off. So things like settlement reports, so where we're tracking things like my settlement estimation and accuracy, we can do that from our data warehouse, and we've got pre-configured reports for all of that. So I can look at my settlement outcomes, how accurate I was across my reserving, what the settlement outcome analysis looks like, so things like against my owners, against my types. I can look at accuracy across that as well, so let's go and see who's the most accurate and what types in their folio they're looking at, and I can do all that from there. let's have a quick look at our matter summary report. So this is doing things like how many have I got, where are the bottlenecks, what's my life cycle look like, so volumes, again my life cycle, so how many days is it taking through my key milestones. We're looking at aging, so where we've got things like aging portfolios or any activity, and we can raise events from that. So that's a quick insight into our case framework. We've also got 2 additional areas where you can configure all of your types, what we call modeler. So in modeler, this is where you configure all of the case types. So let's take a look at the injury one that we were looking at earlier. So in here we can do things like we can configure all of its portals, all of its views, all of its participants, its phase model, everything to do with any work composition comes from modeler. So this is the whole modeling area, and you can see in here as well that out of the box, in terms of legal, we ship with a whole bunch of these out of the box containers. And then we've also got an administrator. In the administration area, this is where you can configure all of the document templates, all of my operational data store, so my entities are in here. And I can also look at things like diagnostics. So what's going on with our indexes, how healthy is our system, all of the alerting comes from here as well. So that's a quick insight into the legal case framework. Thank you.